Hi everyone, this is Justin from Easy Rides. Today I'm going to be showing you an unboxing of the Hornet X. Very cool little scooter. I think I'd just take a minute here to go through all the tools that you're going to need for the assembly. And we're going to be starting with a rubber mallet. You're going to need one of those. You're going to need an X-Acto knife. You're going to need a pedal wrench or a 15mm wrench. Phillips screwdriver, a little bit of grease for the pedals, a pair of snips, 10mm wrench, 14mm wrench, 17mm deep socket, 12mm deep socket, and a 14mm socket. Now, I like to use an electric drill, but if you have a socket at home, like a ratchet set at home, that works just as well. And then last but not least, we're going to be using an air pump. Any old air pump will do. I like to use an electric air pump. It works the best. And that's pretty much it for all the tools that you're going to need for this assembly. Okay, so to start the assembly, we are obviously going to need two tools. We're going to need our snips and we're going to need our X-Acto knife. Take the straps, cut them with the snips, just like so, very easy. And then you're going to take your X-Acto knife and you're just going to run it along the back of the top of the box here, just like this. Get the tape out of the way, flip the edges over, unfold everything. And with every unboxing that I do, I always like to use the X-Acto knife at the two front corners of the box. Just shove it straight in there and pull it straight up, just like that. Same thing on this side. Straight up. And the whole box should open right up for you, and you'll have access to the whole scooter. Okay, for this section, now that we have the cardboard box open, we can start disassembling the crate. I like to start at the back of the crate where the front wheel is located. There's going to be some wire on here. You're going to want to take your snips and just cut those wires. Free that wheel out. Set it aside for later when we go to assemble the front end. Cut the snips right here, here and here, just like that. This part can be a little bit tricky. You just want to pull those down like that. Just get everything kind of pulled out of the way. If you want to, you can wrap the metal around the crate, just like that, so it's kind of out of the way. And then we're going to take our 10mm wrench and our 10mm socket, and we're going to start to go around and undo all the bolts for the crate. Just like so. Stick your wrench in, just like that, nice and easy. Go around all four corners, and that gets the top end of the crate off. Okay, so now that we've got the crate all out of the way, we can start to remove all our plastics. Again, you're going to be taking your X-Acto knife. Try to be careful with the X-Acto knife, cutting away from the bike. And you can just grab some of the plastic, cut through with the knife, and then just remove all the plastic. Some portions of the bike will have plastic up at the front. Just take your knife again, remove the front cover for the scooter, and just remove all the plastic and recycle accordingly. Okay, now that you've got all your plastics removed, it's time to start the assembly of the scooter. I like to start with the serial number, which is probably the most important part of your scooter. That ensures that you have something to identify it by. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the keys, and we're going to unlock the seat. And we're just going to go ahead and remove this plastic. And we're going to take our little serial number sticker, and we're going to find a nice cozy home for it to go underneath the seat. Just like that. Doesn't matter where it goes as long as it's visible. Also inside the carrier here, we have all our parts. We have a box of mirrors. We have our charger box, and we have a bag of hardware that we're going to be using. I like to take the charger, put it right back inside there so that we don't lose it. And then we're ready to move on to the first piece of the assembly, which is the carrier. I like to start with the carrier first. So take your bag of hardware, find a nice clean surface or a table or something to work on, and just kind of pour everything right out. And what we're going to be looking for is these little bold washers are some of the pieces that you're going to need. You're going to need 4 of these longer bolts, and you're going to need 4 of these lock nuts. Okay, so now we're ready to mount the carrier onto the back of the bike. Take your keys, open up your carrier. You're going to find the fender inside. We can set that down aside for later. That's going to be another part of the assembly. You're going to have like a little felt mat inside. You're just going to pull that out and move it to the side. If you want to come over here, I can show you where all the mount holes are. You look down inside the carrier, you're going to see a whole lot of different mount holes. We're not going to worry about too many. You're just going to kind of have a look at where your holes are, and you're just going to find a nice, comfortable spot where everything lines up. And then you're just going to take your bolts, make sure the washer and everything goes like that, and then just kind of feed everything in one at a time, making sure that everything is all lined up and that the carrier looks straight and it's in a position that you like. Typically, I like to just kind of do like a little default position. And then now that we're happy with that, we can take our nuts, and then you're just gonna kind of finger tighten those on until they stop, just like that. That way the carrier can just sit and go around and do all your bolts, and then we'll get into the part with the tools. Okay, now that we've got our bolts in place, we're now ready to fasten everything down. Again, you can use a ratchet or you can use a hand drill. I like the hand drill, 10mm wrench. You're just gonna place the drill right on top, put your wrench down underneath, and you're just gonna kind of do this up until the washer compresses a little bit, and not too much. Just like that, nice and easy. And just go around and do all 4 bolts. Okay, now that you've installed your carrier, it's time to move on to the next part of the assembly, which is the front wheel. There's a few steps involved when doing the front wheel. Where I like to start is with the double kickstands, okay? You're gonna wanna grab the side of the bike, put your foot down on that kickstand, and you're gonna lift and pull. That puts that in a nice stable position. You're gonna wanna take your drill or ratchet, whatever you're using, and you're gonna wanna put on 17mm deep socket and your 14mm wrench. If you wanna come over here, I'll show you how this comes apart. You're gonna take your 14mm wrench, which is usually always gonna be on the caliper side for the axle. You're gonna stick that on there. You're gonna take your drill or ratchet, put that on the other side, and you're just gonna zip this right off. Just like that, nice and easy. You're gonna wanna put some pressure underneath the front of the bike to remove the axle. Should come out fairly easily. Okay, then you're gonna wanna put some pressure underneath the front of the bike. You're gonna lift it up, and you're gonna push this towards the back. Just like that. You wanna give yourself enough room to get the front wheel in. Okay, now that we're ready to assemble the front wheel, there's just one thing that we have to do first. We have to remove this caliper because it's gonna make the installation a lot easier. 10mm socket on a drill or ratchet. You're just gonna remove these 2 bolts. Just like that, just so that we can get that out of the way. It's definitely gonna make the installation a lot easier. Okay, so you're gonna take your front wheel and you're gonna have 2 different size spacers. The smaller spacer has to go on the rotor side of the bike, just like that. So I like to stick that in first, bring the front of the bike up a little bit. The wheel can rest just like that. Stick your axle in, and then just kind of play with it a little bit as you attempt to guide the axle through the wheel. Some people may have a little bit of trouble with this, others may find it very easy. Once you're all the way through, then you're gonna move over to this side. You're gonna have to come over here. You're gonna move over to this side, and you're gonna put your longer spacer in on this side. Push that axle out so that it's flush with the spacer. Bring this down like this, and you're just gonna kind of push everything through, just like that. Take your nut, put it back on, switch out your socket, just like that. Put your 14mm on the caliper side, drive that in, just like that. Okay, now that we've got our front wheel on, it's time to put the caliper back on. Whenever you're installing the caliper, always try to make sure that the pads are spread out. In this case, we are, but if not, you can use a flathead screwdriver or any other kind of flattened end tool. You just kind of stick it right in there, spread the pads out so that there's lots of space. And then you're just gonna wanna put it up on the rotor, look down the front of it, slide it on. Sometimes I may have to use a mallet to kind of guide that in there because it doesn't want to go in. But once you're in place, you just line up your bolt holes, stick your bolts back in, just like that. And then you're ready to drill those home. Oh, let's use the 10mm. Just like that, and that's the caliper. Okay, so while we're at the front end and we've done the caliper, we might as well do the fender as well, do everything all in one place. Fender's pretty simple fender. Make sure the skinny part of the fender is towards the back. You're just gonna kind of guide that right in there like that. You're gonna have 4 short bolts that are gonna come with your hardware, so make sure you have those on hand. Stick them in like so. Find your hole. And then you're just going to kind of do these in gently. Don't do them down all the way. You kind of want to go around all 4 spots and ensure that every bolt is in before you tighten everything down. You may have to play with this side of the fender because it's going to be sticking out a little bit, but it should still go in all the same. Stick this bolt on, stick it in. Now, if you're using an electric drill like I do, you want to be very gentle with the plastic pieces, as this stuff can be a little bristle and fragile sometimes. So we're just going to give it a little tiny, just like that. It doesn't have to be any more than that. If you're using a ratchet, then it's just nice and snug. Okay, so now that we've finished all the assembly pieces down at the front end of the bike, we're going to move up towards the steering. A few pieces to put in for the steering is one of these long bolts, a curved washer, and your nut. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the curved washer flat side against the head of the nut, and then you're going to look for the hole where that bolt's going to go in. So I may have to move the wheel a little bit just so everyone can see. You can just push some wires out of the way. Make sure that the curve of the washer matches the curve of the stem. And you'll know you've got it when the washer's sitting nice and flat against the whole assembly. Then you're going to take it, this is a tricky part, you're going to take your nut. You may have to turn the steering all the way to one side so that you can get access to the back of that bolt, but you're just going to very gently put that bolt in the back by hand, and you're just going to spin that up until it stops. Now we're going to use our tools. Okay, so now that we've got the bolt and everything in place, we're going to put it together with our tools. 12mm deep socket for the front and the 14mm wrench for the back. So again, I'm just going to turn the steering to the side, rest that right on there. What's neat about the wrench is that it's got the curved end on it, so it makes it nice and easy to get that in there. And then you're just going to drill this up, just like that. You're going to keep this in place, and you're going to give this wrench a good little tug up. That ensures that that bolt is in place. Okay, now that you've got your steering bolt in place and secured, it's time to put on the front cover. And to do that, we have a few parts to put on. We have these really cool little screw clips. I'm sure anybody that's ridden on any bike is familiar with these. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick them on the back here, making sure that that's the bigger hole is towards you. Just slide those on there like that, nice and easy. Not very hard to put on. Then we're going to go over to the bike, and then we're going to install it on the front. You have these little clips right here. Make sure that they're all guided in their holes. Just like that. You just slide it up, push the plastic in place, just like that. And then you're just going to take the 2 screws and install them through the front, which is right here. Just like this. Look down inside the hole, make sure that you can see the clip, and then you can just start screwing everything in. Okay, now that you've got your front panel on, it's time to move on to the next piece, which is the mirrors. Very simple, very easy. Pull them out of the box. Throw away your trash and cardboard. You're going to take the mirror, you're going to fold this back right here like this. This makes it easy to get to the nut, also when you want to put your wrench on it. We're going to turn this back a few times, just to give us lots of threads. Just going to kind of guide that in there like that. Then you're just going to spin it on. You're going to spin it on until it goes all the way to the bottom. And wherever it stops, oh, look at that. It was perfect. So we'll just secure it right there. Take the 14mm wrench, stick it on that nut, give that a good tighten, and then you can fold this down. A nice little trick that I like to do is I take my wrench, put it over top of this, and just give it a nice good push. So there, looks nice and clean. Very cool. Okay, now that we've finished the mirror assembly, one of the last few things that we're going to be doing are the pedals and pedal arms. So you're just going to take your pedals that you got here, remove all the plastics, put that aside, take out your pedal arms, move that aside, and then you're going to determine which pedal arm goes on which. There is a left and a right, so you're going to look at the back of the pedal arm and you're going to see that there's an L marking on there for left and an R marking for right. We're doing the left side, so I want the left pedal arm. Just kind of stick that on there. It's nice and easy. And we're going to be using a 14mm socket for this installation. Sorry. Take your nut, put it on your socket or ratchet or whatever you're using. Stick it right in there. Firm grip on the pedal arm because this is going to want to spin around as soon as you go to drill this in. Just like that. Nice and solid. and then we're ready to put the pedal on. Again, same thing. Always check for the indication on the back, which side is which. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So for this side, we're going to be going counterclockwise. Put some grease on there. Less is more. Just like that. Spread it around the threads. Just like that. You don't need really a whole bunch. Thread that on. Again, going counterclockwise for this side. Take your pedal wrench or whatever wrench that you're using for this installation, 15 millimeter. You're going to stick that on there. And you're essentially just going to back pedal it. Nice and easy. It's a nice back pedal motion. Then you're going to tighten this down just like that. I recommend that while you're doing the pedals, you take the bike off the double kickstands and you put it on the regular kickstand. It's going to make putting the pedals on a lot easier with the wrench. So just one last thing in the pedal assembly is making sure that these little plastic caps go on the ends where the nuts are placed in. This is just to kind of help protect that part of the assembly. And then there you go. Pedals are finished. Okay, so last but not least is the air for your tires. You definitely want to make sure that you have air in your tires. Just going to find that little valve cap right there, and you're going to go ahead and remove that. You're going to turn on whatever pump you're using, whether it be a hand pump, electric pump, or a battery-operated pump. Either or, doesn't matter. You're going to set the PSI to 32. That's what these scooters use, 32 PSI. So you're going to go ahead and attach your piece that you have for your pump, and you're just going to go ahead and pump that up. Okay, and that concludes the assembly for the Emo Hornet X.